KFIZ News Time. It is 8:11. Welcome to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. Phone lines are open for your questions, 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. If you can't give us a call, shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. Ron, Patty, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing on this, I would say, pretty lovely Saturday morning, actually?
Yes, it's been a lovely week.
It really has been, yeah. It's been really nice. Unfortunately, I've been mostly tired and just laying around all week. It's always weird, recovering from my vacation, so to speak.
Yeah.
But so I didn't get to take as much advantage of the nice weather. But nonetheless, yeah, it's been really nice. Got a bit of a reprieve from the rain, which is, I think, ideal for the most part.
For the most part, everything is really getting pretty dry right now.
Yes, I would agree.
So this rain, if it is coming, it's going to be really welcome.
Yeah, we could use it at this point. I had mentioned that earlier in the program as well.
Yeah, it's kind of swung around the other way now. And even these, when you talk about overnight lows at 69, that doesn't mean it's going to, we're going to get much reprieve from the heat. So, if we do get hit with a thunderstorm, which is usually, 2 or 3 tenths, all in a matter of about a half hour or less,
right,
that kind of keeps the lawns green and kind of helps the gardens and the perennials and things like that. But it generally doesn't do a lot for your larger trees and shrubs that you've planted or transplanted over the last couple of years. So, we've swung around 180 degrees here over the last 2 or 3 weeks, where I always say it, plants have a kind of a short memory.
Yeah.
And you have to keep that in mind. Just because it was wet and you weren't watering back in June and the early part of July, now you have to be cognizant of that.
Yep.
And if it does happen to rain, or you're anticipating rain, well, you should still water, and that way you get the benefit of an all-day rain instead of just a half-hour rain.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get that thunderstorm and then you go out and water that next morning, and then it thunderstorms again that afternoon, well, that's even better yet. You get, a rain, a watering and another rain.
Yep.
And that is, then it starts doing some good again. So, and when I'm talking about things like that, that doesn't mean you need to water your vegetable garden in between twice, but I'm talking more about if you planted
trees,
larger trees or larger, any shrubs and
right,
and that, because those plants, the root systems start 6 inches down, which is these thunderstorms usually don't get more than a couple, 3 inches down. So you get the false sense of security that we've gotten, because your lawn is green, you think, well,
right, your
the
vegetable
plants
garden's doing good. Yep.
Yeah, and now I've been receiving some text pictures and emails over the last week, and from different people wondering, what's wrong with their tree. And I says, well, you better get out there and water it, because, and they go, well, it was wet. And I go, well, yeah, it was. That's the key word. It was wet. It was wet back in June and back at 4th of July, yet it was still wet. But now we're in the last week of July.
Things are drying
and
up
after 10 days, it dries right back out, especially when the low temperatures are 66 and 69.
Right.
It's going to get up into the 80s, and now it has kind of, the last couple of weeks we've had some moderate, actually pretty nice temperatures for July. It was in the around 78 to 82, let's just say. But now the forecast for the next 10 days is more into the upper 80s. Yep. And like I said, with these low temperatures of 69, it doesn't get much of a, you don't get much of a chance to, for a break. So you have to be a little cautious if you're doing any, I wouldn't do anything with the best thing you could do for your lawn right now would be water it. If it needs water, don't fertilize it. Don't put weed killers down. Don't do anything.
Any of that, just straight water.
Just let it go. And then get ready, for later in August when the trend turns the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're thinking about doing any reseeding, you should be getting organized now, because the best time that we've always found to do grass seeding here, at least in our area in Wisconsin, is that middle of August to middle of September.
Yep. And
if it starts raining in the middle of August and you aren't prepared, pretty soon it is the middle of September before you're getting your seeding in. So, stop on out to Rademann's now and pick up your Madison Parks grass seed and be ready so that when the time comes, you're ready. So those are, you want to be organized a week early, not a week late when it comes to these things. And we're, we're getting to some summer deadlines that are coming up real quick too. And you want to be, the Miracle Grow and the Fertilome products that you mix with water soluble fertilizers. You can do it now, and you can do it for another week or two. But once we get into the middle of August, then you shouldn't be doing any fertilizing or anything like that. That's going to encourage, September growth. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Plants need to be shutting down in September.
Yep.
So you kind of got one chance here if you fertilized your perennials or any shrubs or anything like that. Here a week or two ago, go ahead and do it again next week or the following week, or go out and do it right now if you haven't done it. But keep in mind there you should water after you fertilize them too. So, and if you put that, we have some good water-soluble Fertilome products out at Rademann's. If you do apply those, then, give it a good drink after you do it, and give it another good drink the next day so that it kind of displaces it through the whole root system and soaks it in. Anything to add to that, Patty?
Yeah, this is still a good time to be fertilizing and pruning back your deadheading your roses and your perennials and things like that.
Yep, I've been doing that with my rose bush.
Okay, and sometimes some of your roses will definitely just keep reblooming, but not quite as much. And there's a few perennials that will do that too. So it's good to deadhead. It's good to fertilize. And I do continue to fertilize my container flowers and container grown plants, because even beyond the middle of August, because they're just annuals anyways. They're not gonna put on fresh green plush growth that's gonna get frostbitten. So
gotcha.
Right,
I'm doing that for the flowers.
Right, that's a good point, Patty. When I'm talking
you're talking about
trees and shrubs,
and perennials
and perennials, and but if you've got annuals, well, then go for it.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, because it doesn't
matter. You might as well keep them looking good as long as you can into September and October,
because they're going to be gone in a few months, anyways.
Yeah,
and it's not. I was kind of looking at hydrangeas again this past week, and a lot of them, because everything leafed out, flowered out a couple weeks early this spring, a lot of the flowers on some of the hydrangeas, I was looking at, I have Twist and Shout in my yard at home, which is a endless summer variety that's seems a little more dependable, a little hardier than the true endless. It's the original endless summer. It's a second generation endless summer, so it's definitely better. And the flowers that came onto that 3 weeks ago or a month ago now are kind of fading out. So if you cut out some of those dead flowers, there's some new shoots coming in behind it now.
You'll get a couple.
Yeah, look back down in there, and you'll get some more, especially if you use like some of these water-soluble fertilizers. Give them a boost, cut those dead. It's kind of like, like roses, you know, same thing. You're cutting off the dead spent flowers, and then there's new growth coming in behind it, whereas it's still July.
Yep.
We're talking about being careful for fall and all that, but some of these things, like the hydrangeas and roses that have this, they get this secondary shoots coming out, and you can get a lot of nice flowers out of hydrangeas yet into September yet, and keep those things looking good.
Yep.
So.
All right, I tell you what, we will take our first break. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Ron, I assume Rademann's is open today?
Yeah, we didn't even get to that here.
Yeah.
20 minutes into the show already. But yeah, Rademann's is open today, open on Saturdays till noon, Monday through Friday till 4:30, and you can stop on out. We're 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, just east on County Trunk B.
Welcome back. You're listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. Phone lines are open for any and all of your landscaping and gardening questions, so give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? Shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com.
I think, we're also at a period right now, too, where we get a lot of these, when is the best time? And it's always not so much when is the best time, it's when is the worst time. It's to be always more alert to things. But as far as the best time, again, we talked about the best time to do grass planting is middle of August to middle of September. Right now, we're kind of in the best time to plant evergreens or transplant spruce, pine, fir, arborvitae, anything like that. We're in that window that I like. And you'd think, well, why would you want to plant an evergreen when it's 86 degrees and 69 overnight?
That's my question. So yeah.
But when you're planting a larger, and I would maybe, if you're planting a seedling, which you aren't going to find bare root seedling pine trees at this time of year.
No.
So, it's not a good time to do that. But if you're planting a 4-foot blue spruce, a 5-foot Black Hills spruce, a balsam fir, a Douglas fir, a concolor fir, anything like that, they finish their growth spurt in between May and June. They've hardened off in July. And so the top of the plant is dormant. It's stopped growing, but the roots are still growing. So you can kind of, hook a strap on, drag them down the highway and throw them in the ground. And because they're completely dormant, they grow. Again, the tops have stopped growing, so you don't have to worry about that new growth. So let's move on to the call, and we can go back to that as we move on through the show.
Yeah, no problem. We'll turn to the phone lines right now. You're on Landscape Smart with Ron and Patty. Go ahead with your name and question. Hello? You have a question for Ron and Patty? You are on. All right, well, we tried.
Try back.
Yeah. And feel free to give us a call back at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. But go ahead and continue on with.
Well, yeah. So anyway, if you have evergreen trees in your yard that you want transplanted, or if you want to plant some, now would be a great time to do it. The roots will still grow because the ground temperatures are warm right now. And if you're planting, and they don't require like daily waterings, so if you'd plant a 3-foot spruce tree, let's just say, you'd probably water it a couple times the day it was planted, but then you'd get into about a good, a soaking about once a week or even every 10 days.
Yep.
And if you're planting something, larger, 8 foot or 10 foot, you'd probably only water it 2 or 3 more times the rest of the year.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
Because, it's a deeper rooted plant. Again, if you water it, it stays wet for a couple weeks down below where the root systems are.
What if somebody wants to do some shaping and pruning on evergreens? They shouldn't be, right?
Well, you're kind of right at the end of the season there right now. You could still do it right now. It would have been better to do it a month ago. I would do it right now.
Wait.
Don't wait another week or two. Do it now. So you're kind of right at the deadline there. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's turn back to the phone lines. You are on Landscape Smart with Ron and Patty. You have a question? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hi, you're on. You have a question for Ron and Patty?
We're having so much trouble with ground bees. We're wondering if you have any idea what to do about them. We cover the holes, and within 12 hours, they have the holes right back open.
You have to put some kind of insecticide in that hole. Otherwise, they're just going to... And I would do it in the evening when they're not...
Like spray something?
I don't know exactly what would be the best thing to use. Like a wasp and hornet spray probably would work.
Yeah, we tried that. We've used a couple cans already. That does nothing.
Do you do it at night?
Yeah, we do it at night, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're underground, and that's
Yeah.
why
Right.
they're not...
They must have a tunnel going off to the side where you can't get at them.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's
Okay,
pretty
there's
intricate.
several holes. And
Yeah.
there's more than just one area.
Yeah,
Is there granular diazinon or anything like that still available? You could shove down there?
Yeah, I don't know that we would have anything available at Rademann's that would solve that problem.
Gee, well,
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
No problem, but I will tell you this. I have a good buddy. He is in pest control. That is what he does for a living. I sent him a text. He is usually up about this time. I can't promise he'll get back to me in time, but I did shoot him a text asking what his recommendation is for wasps, hornets, nests that are underground.
Yeah.
So I'll see what he has to say if he gets
that's
back
a
to
good.
me.
I think that might be one of those where if you do enlist professional help.
Yeah, if it gets to that point, you might have to get just somebody to come out and actually deal with it.
Yeah.
Because you have, even like if you're like ant control and things like that, I mean, those specialized companies, they do, they do come through and they'll help you solve those type of problems. And maybe that's what the best way to, those companies have access to chemicals because they're licensed.
Right.
Correct.
That we aren't.
As homeowners.
As homeowners or home gardeners have available to us. So those are, and there's reasons for that too. There's safe handling and things like that. And they're, specifically trained and
Right, they're trained. That's the big
and
difference.
you need a pesticide license to apply those pesticides for good reason.
And for the underground ones, they probably have a thing with a drill or something on the end, and then on the end of it, they can release the pesticide because you have to get down there where they are.
Right.
So
or if it's a pesticide that you would, that could be water soluble, you'd mix it with water and then you'd water it and flush it down. Get it down deeper.
And they should also possibly have the knowledge of knowing how deep and maybe where to go, right?
Yep.
And where the heart of the nest probably is
Exactly.
and where to hit it, right? We're not
probably use sonar or something.
Something,
like that.
They probably it'd be amazing the crazy tools and equipment that's come out there for this sort of thing. Oh yeah.
I can go down there with the sonar and hear them little busy buzzing.
Yeah, I've actually used On the Mark as, not for ground bees. I haven't had that problem, but On the Mark he's around in the Fond du Lac area here, so that would be one. Maybe try giving him a call.
Yep.
Or if you have
he's not in the area, I will say that, unfortunately, but nonetheless, I reached out to him to see if he because I've definitely reached out to him before about pest control around the house. So, namely identifying a rodent, one of my cats eliminated in the house.
Well, that's always a good thing if you got a cat that's
Yes.
helping you.
See, yes, he responded. So let's see. He says possibly insecticide dust. I'm not sure what that means, but insecticide dust. So maybe we'll have to look into what that means. I don't know if there's like a dust you can lay down over the openings of the.
Yeah, but they have to. The insects have to be in contact with.
Right.
Otherwise it's not going to do any good.
Right. And I don't know if.
Yeah, like out at Rademann's, we actually do have some. Insecticides, annual tree and shrub, which works for Japanese beetle and things like that.
I need something to work on in Japanese beetles right now.
So, and that's the annual tree and shrub. You actually, it's liquid and you mix it with water and you put it around the base of the plant, tree, whatever, and that's not going to help.
No.
At this time of year, they're up. The beetles have come out of the ground. They're up
already
in the tree. They're going strong, and so now you have to actually literally spray them with insecticide to kill them. And any Japanese beetle are actually a pretty easy insect to control. So you could pretty much. We out at Rademann's, we have the insecticide 8, as in the numeral 8, and that works. But if you happen to have something else on the shelf in your garage, I would just use that. You don't have to have it. Almost any insecticide will knock down Japanese beetle. The trickiest part about it is getting they start at the top of the tree, and so if your tree is 40 feet tall and your sprayer only sprays 20 feet up, you're not going to do much good. So that's why you have to work with the annual tree and shrub on the ground, and that's because these Japanese beetle, what they're doing right now is they're up in the tree eating, mating, and dropping eggs, and then they die. So and what you're doing then is you're killing the eggs and the larvae that are going to be hatching next year in June and July. So that's why doing it right now isn't going to do much for applying it on the ground. You only need it once a year, but why do it a week late rather than you might as well wait a few months and do it. You'll get better. You'll get a better kill out of it at that point. So
you're talking the annual tree and shrubs that you water in, or is it granular?
No, it's available in quarts and gallons, and then you mix it with water.
Okay.
And we've it works real well. We've had a lot of people call back in, to the show and say how well it's worked. So
good.
So anyway, Rademann's open today till noon. You can still get a delivery, 920-922-7619.
Welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann, Stone, and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today are Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. Phone lines are open for any and all of your landscaping and gardening questions, so give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? Shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. And speaking of the phone lines, we're going to turn right to them right now. You are on Landscape Smart with Ron and Patty. Go ahead with your name and question. Hello? Hello? You're on?
Hello?
Yep. You go ahead. You got a question for Ron and Patty? Hello?
Hello.
Hello? You are on.
I have a 38-year-old flowering crab tree, and we noticed that it was starting to die, and we're losing more branches even now. What can we do about it?
It's probably got the annual flowering crab problem.
Well, some varieties of apple and flowering crab apple are rather susceptible to apple scab, And this being a real, according to certain records, the 5th wettest June on record. So what that means is, there was a lot of fungus, and apple scab is a fungus. And especially what happens is, if you, apple scab, these funguses don't just kill a tree in 1 year, but if it's kind of back to back, that's what, and last year we had, the 5th driest June on record. So, that stressed them the other direction.
Right.
And so when you stress trees one way or the other, well, what happens is part of their root system dies from either, too dry, it's not being fed properly, or too wet because it died from lack of oxygen, it's too wet. And then you end up, the tree starts killing off its, some of the branches die out. So a couple things, about the only thing you can do is, well, if the branch is dead, saw it off and get it out of there, because what that does is it just kind of helps the root system balance back with the top of the tree. So if the root system balances with the leaves and the branches, then everything is all fine again. It'll start growing. The other thing would be, we talked about apple scab being a fungus and it was too wet. Well, that was a month ago.
Yeah.
And
Right.
And now I would water it. You could fertilize it too. You could actually, pick up some Miracle Grow or Fertilum, water soluble fertilizer. That would be the most and quickest acting, and it's early enough. Don't wait, like we said earlier, don't wait 2 or 3 or 4 weeks and do it. You'd have to do it right now. And so trim out those dead branches. You could rebalance it a little bit if the branches are all mostly dead on one side. We'll cut a few live ones out of the other side. And it's the right time of the year to do this, especially if the tree is already stressed. And then fertilize it and water it, and make sure you water it too if you're fertilizing it. So you'd put your water soluble fertilizer down, mix it up in a 5-gallon bucket, pour it around the drip line of the tree, and then throw the garden hose on it and walk away, and just flood that whole area. Water it really good. Leave that garden hose on for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours.
A slow trickle, not very fast.
Right.
You could probably leave it on pretty fast for the first half hour.
Yeah.
But then tone it back down, and then just leave it so that you get a 20-foot diameter circle around the whole tree, good and wet, and soaks down good. And then wait a day and do that again. Probably wouldn't have to do it for quite as long the second day. And then wait another 10 days and do it again. Do it over 10-day periods over through the month of August. And you should get some more new growth on it, and it'll come back. 38 years old for a tree is just getting started.
It's still a youngin'.
Yeah, yep. It shouldn't be. It's not dying from old age at 38.
It's apple
definitely
scab
not.
slowly every year. It hurts it every year. Mine is very bad looking too, because I have one that's very, very bad, that gets it very bad, and the prairie fire is fine. It doesn't. So,
Well, and I'll kind of add a little, 38 and 48 and 58 years ago, there was a lot of varieties of flowering crab out there, and you have to be super careful, because if you go to a store that has flowering crabs, well, what do you think is going to be the cheapest? The ones that are more vulnerable and more susceptible.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, if you go to a garden center, or you work with, Stewart's or Touch the Earth or Country Touch or Roffers, or, these, this is just in the Fond du Lac area, but they have Landmark in Sheboygan and Green Lake. They buy the best varieties of flowering crab, and they don't even offer these other varieties that are susceptible to these different problems and diseases. So, if you're planting new trees, pick out the good varieties. you can find out. Well, call in and ask. I can
Right.
tell you if it's a good variety or a bad one.
Yep.
Or, do your research online.
Mm-hmm.
Go through, don't just do a search and say, what's a good variety of crab, or you'll end up with soup to nuts.
Yeah.
Go to the university websites,
Yep.
go to the arboretums, and
Yeah.
they do studies on that.
Yep.
And
UW Extension has lots of information.
Well,
on that
and,
kind of
and they
thing.
actually have flyers on
Yes.
varieties of flowering crabs that are good for our area. And what's disease resistant
Yep.
in Wisconsin is different than what's disease resistant in Oregon
Right.
or New York or
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Mhm.
So you want to work with Midwestern
Yep.
arboretums, Midwestern universities, and they're going to be unbiased.
Right.
If you just look online, you're going to get. They'll all say theirs is the best and the most
Exactly.
Of course, because they want to sell you
because
something.
they're wanting to sell you something. But
Yeah, university isn't trying to sell you something. They're just trying to.
Right, it's
They're
a-
laying out the research. That's all.
right,
they're doing.
they've done the research
Yep.
and they work together with other universities and so anyway,
Yeah.
that's kind of the
rule.
the rule on some of these newer varieties of disease-resistant trees and shrubs.
All right, I'll tell you what, we'll turn back to the phone lines. You are on with Ron and Patty. Go ahead with your question and name. Hello? Hello? All right. Well, if you have a question, you want a landscaping or gardening question, give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. You can also shoot us an email. I have a quick question for you guys because we're talking about watering and not watering. So I have you gave me a lot of those pepper plants, right?
Yeah.
Things are turning out good. They're
Yeah.
producing a ton of peppers, but the ones there, a lot of the leaves are really starting to droop and get a little.
So have they been watered a lot, or just you've let them on their own after?
I've done some watering, but that was when I first kind of got them.
Sure.
But then we've been getting.
Yeah, we had plenty of rain. They
Right.
should be fine.
That's kind of what was my thought too. So I didn't know if it was even overwatered potentially, or
No, if they were overwatered, the leaves would be kind of yellow.
I'd say, now it's been pretty hot and pretty dry the last
Give 'em a
10
little
days.
bit.
They probably need a little drink.
Okay, I'll do that. That was my perfect. Answer my question. We'll turn back to the phone lines. You're on Landscape Smart with Ron and Patty.
Hello?
Yep. Hello. You have a question
Hi.
for Ron and Patty?
No, I have a comment on the ground bees.
Oh, go
Sure.
ahead.
All it takes is you put a glass bowl over the hole. I have tried this several times because
Interesting.
I didn't want to use chemicals. I had a big nest of them in my garden.
Okay.
Put that glass bowl over the top of the hole. It confuses them. You leave it there for like 2 weeks, and they will all die.
Interesting.
Okay.
I've tried it. It honestly works.
Okay.
Wow, that sounds like the cheapest, best.
Right. That's great. Just a nice
It
plexiglass
is.
bowl right
It
over.
is.
Yeah.
Before that, I was trying like gas, and gas does work, but you really don't want to throw gas in your garden.
No.
So,
Probably
yeah,
not.
It honestly works.
Oh.
That's,
Once I took that bowl off when they were all dead, there was a huge nest under there. It was
Oh, I bet.
4 layers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where all the ground, dirt went, but they were dead.
Well,
My goodness.
excellent. Well, thank you for the tip. Much appreciated.
Sure thing. Bye-bye.
Bye. And an update on that, my buddy did get back to me on more details. So what he said is what he recommends, not to say that she's wrong, so you can definitely try the bowl thing over the hole. He says you want to get an insecticide dust, and then you want to get a bulb, and essentially you're going to take that bulb and you're trying to blow the insecticide dust as deep as you can down into the hole. So you probably do that multiple times, probably. And we talked about it off the air, probably at night.
I
Probably.
like the bowl idea way better.
Well, or you could even do both: blow a little insecticide down into the hole, and then cover it so they can't
yeah, they can't escape.
escape. Yeah, which sounds really cruel, but yes.
Well, if
I
they're
don't know, sometimes even discouraging them and, again, if the ground bees were in the vacant lot next door,
They're
that
fine.
would be great. You know, then
Right,
they're out
yeah.
there to pollinate and do some good for us. And if you can, you know, maybe just by putting the bowl over it, it might kind of discourage them or make them move to a different location.
Right.
Also, and some are left behind, or they may not all make it. But
Yeah.
you know, then you're actually kind of helping things out rather
Right.
than. So
Yeah, maybe not killing
So I-
off a whole colony.
so I like the idea of the bowl so much better, especially, you know, because who knows if it's killing them or killing some of them, but
Right.
it might also, they may survive and move into an area that isn't
Yeah.
in the middle of your,
Right.
right next to your patio in
right,
the backyard.
right, where someone isn't putting a big bowl over your front door. Essentially.
Sure.
Tell you what, we will take our final break. You're listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company.
So yeah, again, Rademann's open till noon today, Monday through Friday till 4:30. We're just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac. You can, or 4 or 5 miles north of Lemire, I guess, and then you just take right off of Highway 41 on County B.
Welcome back to the final segment of Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I'm Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Patty. If you have any in landscaping or gardening questions, give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? You can shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. Ron, I have a quick question for you, and we talked about it, and obviously not last week because I was off, but I remember 2 weeks ago, and it's a conversation that comes up pretty regularly in terms of make sure you water enough. We're not just getting that top layer, we're getting down into the roots, or don't be fooled by a thunderstorm where, you know. So my question for you is, and I know there's probably not a hard and fast rule because it's going to depend on your location, soil type, but is there a rough estimate of rainfall rate to it seeping down into a certain, you know, it rained this hard for this long, therefore it probably got to about this depth in the soil? That's my question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, most rainfalls don't really, you know, get down more than 2 or 3 or 4 inches. Now, if where it does get down is deeper is when it rains on back-to-back and to back days.
Gotcha.
When it rains, when you get 3/10 on Tuesday and another 3/10 on Friday, that keeps the grass green, but that's about as far down as what it really does. So you really need those back-to-back, you know, or that, you know, an all-day rain.
all day slow.
An all-day soaker rain, which we seldom get at this time of year. So you have to kind of emulate that a little bit.
Optimum is an inch a week of rainfall. But it can't be all in a half an hour.
Spread that out.
Yes.
Well, and if it's been real dry and you get an inch of rain in an hour, it helps.
It helps, but a lot of it runs off.
But half of it, again, it just depends on every situation. The other one, I was out at some friend's house. They've been longtime listeners. They live out near the airport, and they have I was there, and we were looking at a magnolia at the time, and there was a few Japanese beetle on this magnolia. And I said, well, you know, I don't think you need to bother to spray it. There was only 2 or 3 or 4. And then I kind of, you know, I walked around a little bit more, looked up and around, and about 30 or 40 feet away was about a 40-foot birch tree. Beautiful white birch, you know, and still doing well. And it was probably one of those 38-year-old trees that, you know, and birch are kind of nearing the end of their lifespan at 38 years. But this one here was in good health, but it was, you know, the Japanese beetle were up in it and way up in it. You know, you weren't going to do any spraying 40 feet up in the air. Right. And the other problem is, of course, it's, you know, right off their front porch, their front sidewalk. And so, you know, my advice to them was just water it, you know, get it back into good health. keep it in good health
Mm-hmm.
because it had been hot and dry. And if you water it and you keep the plant in good health, it can fight through Japanese. It wasn't a real bad infestation.
Right.
It wasn't. It was definitely noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
And these beetles were dying or dropping more mating, dropping more eggs into the ground in the area around it, and that's why they were on the magnolia, which happened to be nearby. But in this case, I told them, water it today, water it tomorrow morning,
Yep.
water it again tomorrow night, and just get that whole area soaked real well so that the whole root system, and that'll just kind of keep the tree in good health, and it'll fight through
Right.
Japanese beetle too. And again, then you're not using a chemical.
Yeah.
And they should be using the annual tree and shrub insecticide on the ground around it in fall or early next spring, and that'll prevent it from coming back. It'll
Yep.
kill off these, but it doesn't. You aren't going to spray 40 feet up
No.
in the air.
I don't think so.
So
Bring the ladder truck.
yeah, so those are just and I didn't think it was. There are professionals, but by
Yeah.
the time you enlist a professional company to come in, and by the time they get there, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
Right.
This is one of those things that needed to be done this week, because by next week those Japanese beetles will be gone. So.
Yep. And I think we forget sometimes that a lot of these plants do have natural
Yeah.
built-in defenses
Right.
to deal with this stuff. You know what I mean? They've been surviving out in the wild without us for
Right.
ages dealing with insects. So
And keeping them watered and healthy is the best thing.
right, because then they're allowed to just use their natural own defenses
Yeah.
to deal with the problem as they've evolved over generations on top of generations. So we're going to be wrapping up real quick, closely, but we've been talked a lot about like tree trimming. My maple it's a big old maple out front. It's very healthy. It looks great, but it absolutely needs to be trimmed down. I got lots of branches going over the roof, for example, gutters, stuff like that, and then even over the sidewalk. My quick question is, when would you recommend I have
Well,
that
you
done?
could trim it right now. Again, no trimming after August 15th, though.
Okay.
Because then you're encouraging new growth 2 and 3 weeks down the road, which would be into September. So any trimming should be done, as far as anything goes, right now. Don't wait.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Don't wait any longer.
All right.
So
Excellent, Ron.
another
go ahead.
reminder: we're on YouTube.
Oh,
so
yes,
listen,
yes.
if you tuned in late, you can still
Yep. Go back and
go back and pick up the beginning of the show.
absolutely.
Again, Rademann's open till noon today, Monday through Friday till 4:30.
Excellent. Ron, Patty, thank you so much as always.
Welcome.
Yes. Have a wonderful weekend. Everyone, don't go anywhere, as the Jerry and Karen Schneider Polka Show will be coming up right here on 1450 KFIZ.